and I'm the volunteer interviewer for Bury VCFA. Today I'm joined by Heather Duckworth, who works as a violence reduction unit facilitator within the Bury area. Hi Heather, thank you for joining me today. Can you tell me about the violence reduction unit?
Yes, certainly. So the Violence Reduction Unit is an initiative using Home Office money that comes from the Home Office to Greater Manchester Combined Authority and then goes out to the 10 Greater Manchester areas. Specifically, the area I'm involved with is the Communities Violence Reduction Unit, or VRU as we call it.
And with that in mind, how did you become involved in working with the VRU, and what early activities did you start to be involved in?
So the Communities VRU in Bury is a place-based model, and it's working specifically with children and young people who are at risk of serious violence and their families. So that could be criminal exploitation, where they themselves are involved in violence, or it might be as victims of violence. I have a background in Bury working with children and young people, particularly those who face challenges, and that's why I wanted to be involved.
Can you tell us a bit about your role at Bury VCFA?
Yeah, it's quite exciting and varied actually. So I'm a facilitator, which means that I'm the conduit between the people in the within Bury and the very well placed communities organisations who are offering activities and support to the children and young people and their families who are at risk of violence. So my role is really varied. I might have one day where I'm at the police station finding out about what's gone on over the weekend, because we work pretty closely with the Community Safety Partnership, or I might be at an event in Clarence Park looking at how the cafe is changing in terms of what it's doing during the day, all driven by the people who live within Bury, rather than the Violence Reduction Unit saying, right, this is what we think Bury needs. The slant of the programme is speaking to residents and saying what is it you want, and doing our best to meet that request.
It sounds really interesting, Heather, especially the thing that you get, that you seem to really want to get the community involved.
I think that's why the communities bit sits within VCFA, because as an organisation, Bury VCFA has already got established links with community groups. So we're not just speaking to individuals, although we are doing that. We're actually looking at grassroots organisations and saying, right, well, this is your area. What do you think there's a need for? You know, you've got a great allotment group there. How can we marry your offer with what children and young people could be doing, perhaps as diversionary activities? So there's a pilot programme running now in Bury, and that's what I'm specifically involved in. And that's there's a universal offer of sports, and that's through Bury Defence Academy, and that's free. There's a package of support for families, because I think sometimes if you've got a young person in your family who is on the fringes of violence, that's really difficult for the family themselves, and sometimes the parents or the carers, whoever it is that's carrying that responsibility, doesn't really know where to go with that worry. So our partner Early Break are offering support for the families, and we've also got very targeted support from an organisation called One Message, who are going and working with the children and young people who are already embroiled in this activity, and they're a mentoring organisation, and it's lived experience, so the mentor really understands from the young people's position, so is able to tell them the reality of what they're getting involved in. So it is exciting, it is interesting, but it is very much about the people saying this is what we need, and us trying to respond to that need.
And what challenges are facing the VFU in Greater Manchester and the Bury area specifically?
I think it's like with everything, Steph. You've got a situation where funding is tight. So our pilot programme in Bury, which is sort of East Bury, so the centre of town and the Moorside area, has been funded on a pilot for a year, and we're still in our infancy as an alliance, working really, really well, but we're just getting our name out there, we're just becoming established. And so the challenge is, how do we continue that work and resourcing it adequately? And I think that's the same across Greater Manchester.
And has there been any specific activity that you yourself have been particularly involved in that you are proud of?
I mean, I've not worked for the organisation for very long, and one of the things that I'm starting to do now and seems to be coming to fruition is the back of house stuff. So making sure that I am seen, making sure that I'm linking people and introducing people to one another, whether that's an individual or an organisation, links with sort of the council, with the police, with the voluntary organisations and the people themselves, the schools. That's the bit I've started to speak to schools, and that's really important because that's how we support our young people. And then there's the exciting bits, which is, for example, I mentioned the sports activities. I was invited to go along to an awards event with Bury Defence Academy, where some of the young people had followed a programme of work, and this is all funded by the VRU, so the children haven't had to pay, and they were going away with certificates, and it was a really good quality programme of study with fitness, and it was lovely to see them feeling that they'd achieved something through this work.
Yes, and before I ask the final question, Millie, I'd just like to say that, you know, from listening to our conversation today, that it sounds really positive and really something that, you know, like the community can get involved in, and something that, like you say, people can feel very proud of.
I think, you know, young people get bad press, don't they? And actually, the majority of young people want to be involved in positive activity, and that's the beauty of this, in that it's funded, it's in the right spot, and it's really great activities for them to get involved with. And what the Alliance looks like now, it may be very different in 6 months' time, because it's constantly evolving, and we're constantly looking at what the children and young people themselves are enjoying and want to do more of, so that we can build on our early successes.
And finally, how can individuals or groups across the Bury area find out about the VRU work and work that's going on across Bury? So
immediately, the first point of call would be the VCFA website. And if you want to know what's happening at a sort of a Greater Manchester level, the Violence Reduction Unit has its own website too.
Okay, thank you, Heather. Thank you very much for your time today. It's
Thanks,
greatly appreciated.
Thank you.